Closing out our ALS talks, we are honored to welcome Betty Francisco, CEO of Boston Impact Initiative and co-founder of Amplify LatinX, to lead, hey, clap, please clap, to lead the discussion on funding the future innovative financing for emerging entrepreneurs. Betty Francisco is a business executive, impact investor, and community leader. She's known as a powerful convener and change maker, unapologetic about creating visibility for Latino and POC leaders. In 2022, the Boston Business Journal named Betty as one of the Power 50 movement makers, and Boston Magazine named her as one of the 100 most influential people in Boston. Betty is currently the CEO of Boston Impact Initiative, a social impact investment fund that invests to close the racial wealth divide in Massachusetts. She is the co-founder of Amplify LatinX, a social venture that is building Latinx economic and political power through Latino leadership, representation, and economic opportunities in Massachusetts. She was the general counsel at Compass Working Capital, where she oversaw the organization's legal affairs, compliance, and risk management. Before that, she served as the EVP, general counsel for Sports Club LA and Reebok Sports Club New York, a fitness brand acquired by Equinox Fitness. Betty began her legal career as a senior business law associate at Edwards Wildman, now Locke Lord, representing startups, corporations, and investors. She serves on the boards of directors of the Boston Foundation, Nellie Mae Education Foundation, Beth Israel Lahey Health, and Roxbury Community College. Betty obtained her JD and MBA from Northeastern University and her BA in history from Bard College. Please welcome Betty Francisco.
Buenas tardes, amplifiers. ¿Cómo están? So I am so excited to share a bit of this, what could be rather dry information, but hope to make it exciting for you. So before I start, I do want to share a little bit about how I became involved in supporting entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs of color and those from underrepresented backgrounds. So in 2015, I left a career in corporate law, representing startups, venture capitalists, and also a large fitness chain, Sports Club LA. I decided at that time to put my JD MBA to good use and start a fitness company called Reimagine Play. And it was this transition that wasn't just about a change in direction, but it was really a transformation of my purpose. I moved from corporate law's high-paced environment to now running around with little kids in shorts to try to nurture a mission-driven environment for kids that was focused on health and equity. So Reimagine Play began as this really simple idea to create engaging, interactive, obstacle and play experiences for youth and families. That emerged from my daughter, Sophia, who's here, because I saw there was a need for more health and fitness activities that could engage the whole self and the whole family. So I thought at that time that I was really well connected. I had a long career in law. I had started Amplify LatinX with Aneda, and we had such a deep network. And I was mistaken. I knew nothing about starting a business from scratch. And so I immersed myself to try to grow my new network in the startup community. I immersed myself in every single kind of program that I could find around startups. I went to all these business seminars. I looked for incubators and accelerator programs. I ended up at the Babson Win Lab focused on women entrepreneurs. And it was there that I started to develop this deep understanding of where all these small business resources existed. You know that Massachusetts is one of the richest states, the wealthiest states, with all these resources for small businesses, and yet they weren't reaching our community. So I started to share a lot of that with Amplify through the Amplify Latinx business program. And as I grew my network and my knowledge, I still felt like access to capital and mentorship and networks was so beyond the reach of many of us. And in this journey, I witnessed firsthand the significant challenges that emerging entrepreneurs face, particularly those from immigrants and underrepresented backgrounds. Now, funding for my own startup was really hard, right? It was brand new. I didn't have a space. I couldn't get a bank loan necessarily. I wasn't a high-growth startup that could fit venture capital. And when I did go to a bank, what did they ask for? Collateral. They wanted my baby and the bathwater. So, I had spent so much time, so much of my journey building up my own assets, buying a home, saving for retirement. I broke the cycle of poverty for my family, and I didn't want to put my own assets at risk by starting a business that was somewhat risky. So that led me to explore these alternative funding models for small businesses. So in 2016, I took another little change. And while I was still working on Reimagine Play, I met Natalia Oberti Noguera, the founder of Pipeline Angels. This is a program that works to create and train women angel investors so that they in turn will provide funding to women-owned social ventures. And it was through this experience that I learned both how to invest my own capital, but also how to match types of capital with the businesses that needed it. So after 3 years of searching for space for Reimagine Play, I wanted to build these Ninja Warrior gyms. That would have been cool, right? I couldn't find affordable space in the city of Boston or anywhere around here. So after 3 years, I actually stopped. And I discovered that I was actually pretty good at doing something else, advising, mentoring small businesses and connecting them with capital and the connections that they needed to thrive. So that's what led me to my next journey, which was Boston Impact Initiative. In 2018, I was invited to join their investment committee. And during the pandemic, I worked extensively with the founder of BI, Deborah Fries, and with my colleague here, Aliana Pinheiro, on helping to support businesses through the COVID pandemic. And I was then asked to join formally 3 years ago, where I'm now CEO. So for 10 years now, BII has been investing in what we call racial and economic justice. We're one of the first impact funds focused on investing in entrepreneurs of color to help close the racial wealth divide. And at BII, I discovered a whole new framework of investing for racial and economic justice, where we seek to systemically address the barriers to capital and create a new economic system that works for all of us. As impact investors, which is focused on and prioritize people and the planet versus pure financial return, we're supporting people, places, and fund managers that seek to create social and environmental impact. As system changers, we're working to address these structural barriers to accessing capital. So how do we do that? We put long-term relationships with a business at the center. We provide multi-year investments of flexible capital and ongoing technical support. And we lend money without ever asking for a credit check, a credit score, or even personal guarantees. All of this is with the greater goal of increasing ownership, wealth, and power in communities of color. So this is why the Latino community is such an important market for us as impact investors. Let me share a little bit about our Latino businesses. So Latino entrepreneurs fuel the US economy in so many ways. According to Stanford's latest report, the US is home to more than 62 million Latinos. We represent 19% of the US population, and we're projected to reach 30% by 2050. We are the new majority. 5 million Latino-owned businesses create 3.5 million jobs, with 10% being employer firms. If Latinos in the US were an independent country, the US Latino GDP would be the fifth largest country in the world. Now that's real economic power, right? So with all this new business growth, Latino businesses are 50% more likely to seek financing, expand, to create greater assets and to meet their operating expenses. And yet, we have a serious problem that prevents Latino businesses from reaching their full potential. Despite this rapid growth, Latino businesses still are not getting their fair share of investment capital. In Massachusetts alone, we have a $600 million annual capital gap for entrepreneurs of color. These are entrepreneurs seeking funding and yet not able to access it or receive it. So if Latino-owned businesses were equitably funded, they would generate $1.4 trillion in revenue today and $3.3 trillion by 2030, according to Bain's research. So when we don't address the capital gap, we're leaving prosperity of an entire community behind. So let's look at the spectrum of capital now. At BII, we focused on place-based investing, and we leverage what we call integrated capital to support emerging entrepreneurs. And so we often talk about this spectrum of capital, all the tools that we have in the toolbox, and yet very few of us even know what's available or where to get it from. So to understand integrated capital, we have to consider this entire spectrum of options, from grants to crowdfunding, which sometimes come from philanthropy or government, to creative debt, such as revenue-based financing and contracts financing, sometimes comes from CDFIs, right, community development finance institutions, or impact investors like us. You also have convertible debt as you go down the equity spectrum, and equity investments which do take a stake in your business. However, our finance sector is so siloed, right? It tries to fit businesses into a financial product versus shaping financial tools to fit what individual businesses need. But if we use an integrated capital approach, it allows us to tailor these financial solutions to the unique needs of small businesses, enabling them to foster growth and sustainability. So for early stage entrepreneurs, this is typically what you use for funding, right? I tried to seek out friends and family, but I didn't have any that had a lot of money, right? I didn't have the rich padrino. Credit cards often are used by Latino businesses to start up and grow, but they over-leverage them, ending up with a lot of high interest debt. Banks and fintechs are options, but do you know you can't get a loan for a bank unless you've been in business for more than 2 years? Usually. And then fintech, right, which also provides immediate financing, but at really high costs. And the most important, right, the most important thing that businesses use to grow is revenue from their customers. And that's really important as well, but sometimes growing your customer base in the beginning is tough. So you see these options are limited. So instead, I'm proposing to you a new way to creatively advance economic justice by leveraging this integrated capital approach. This means sourcing and deploying capital from across the whole capital spectrum. Philanthropy can be used to support grants for operations, credit enhancement, and even guarantees to catalyze investments, especially in difficult-to-fund sectors like climate and clean tech. Low-cost debt, using trust-based underwriting, can allow us to fund more businesses with friendly terms and give them the cash runway that they need to stabilize and grow. And when I say friendly terms, I mean lower than the current market interest rate and with longer payment terms to provide that cash runway. And then structured equity. Oftentimes when we take equity in a business, especially VCs, we expect outsized returns, 10x, 15x. As an angel investor, I was expecting to 10 times my investment. It doesn't usually happen, guys. And so to expect that from our own business tells us a little bit something about how we think about wealth creation and accumulation. So structured equity for us allows us to provide long-term patient capital with capped returns, meaning we're capping our own returns as investors to allow founders and the workers in these businesses to reap the upside that they create. And all of this, of course, you have to couple it with what we call social and political capital, right? That's the coaching, the mentoring, the connections that help you access customers and contracts to fuel sustainable growth, new jobs, innovative products and services that serve our communities. All right, so I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. Are we good? Oh, I have 2 minutes. All right. So these are 3 stories from the BI portfolio. I want to share what this looks like in practice. So Tatiana Little is the co-founder of Envision Productions. She creates video content that helps clients communicate their organization's impact through impact storytelling. In 2021, we supported Envision with a term loan to acquire a production truck and expand the team. And in 2023, Envision acquired a building in Lynn, Massachusetts. Go Envision. And that was to open a production studio and a creative space for local artists. BII helped them apply for the Mass Growth Capital Biz Empower program, which is a crowdfunding program that provides a match to a business. Envision was able to access these funds, thanks to Samalit Hogan here on our team. And they used them to make improvements and investments in the space and add new equipment. Now, they serve dozens of clients in their space, which is a community hub for arts and culture. Next is Abel Vargas from Valley Home Insulation. So VHI is an energy efficiency contractor. They provide energy audits and weatherization services through the Mass Saves program. And they do that with homeowners in the Lawrence area, mostly serving Latino and low-income families. So Abel sought financing from BII for his second truck so that he could add a second crew. And he was unable to get funded by a traditional bank, but BII provided really creative royalty financing, which offered flexible payments based on his monthly revenue. So on slow months, he paid less. In strong months, when he made more, he paid more. So as Abel grew the business, he could take on more stable debt. And in 2023, BII refinanced that royalty with a fixed-term loan, which better supports his current stage of growth. Today, he has 30 employees in 5 crews, all living in Lawrence, and VHI's work leads to energy savings and clean energy adoption in low-income communities. And last but not least, Gabriel Mandujano, who's a social entrepreneur who started Wash Cycle Laundry. It's a sustainable commercial laundry service that saves energy and water. Too complicated to explain how, but it's pretty cool. While he provides also second chance employment for vulnerable adults in Boston, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and DC. So in 2017, Wash Cycle was expanding and wanted to come to Boston. And so they needed startup capital. BII and a number of other impact investors came together and made an equity investment and a term loan to help support their expansion. Wash Cycle now operates in Lynn. They employ over 100 people, and they're a model for workforce development in our state. All of these flexible financing structures were shaped to meet the unique needs of these businesses when they came to us. So despite the impressive economic impact of these businesses, Latinos are still vastly underrepresented in the asset management industry, leading to a disparity in capital allocation. And we know that we need more Latino investment managers and talent across all sectors, from philanthropy to CDFIs, impact and venture capital funds. To foster a diverse community of fund managers, we have to channel more resources to underrepresented entrepreneurs, and that'll allow us to drive economic prosperity and wealth creation within our communities. So I leave you with this. Our collective future depends on us working together to grow Latino talent in finance and impact investing so we can create new funding models for social enterprises. We need more people in positions of power to move and allocate money. And I know that we have the talent and power right here in this room to shape an inclusive and equitable economy. I'm Betty Francisco, and this is how we amplify.